My wife went abroad on a 3-year business trip. On the day she returned, I went to the airport to pick her up. To my shock, standing beside her was a 6-month-old baby. My colleagues later joked, saying that even if the child wasn't mine, at least my wife still was. But my wife handed me a divorce agreement. This time, I was the one who didn't want it. My wife, Lee Min, is beautiful and alluring. Not long after joining the company, she rose quickly through the ranks. 3 years ago, she went abroad on a business trip. She said, 3 years for $1 million. When I come back, our lives will be better. Today was the day she returned. I deliberately took the day off to pick her up. When I arrived at the airport, I saw her from afar. After 3 years, her figure was slightly fuller, but it suited her perfectly. I waved at her, and then I noticed a woman in her 50s walking behind her, holding a baby. As I got closer, my wife took the child into her arms. I froze, but then thought she must just be helping someone. How kind and beautiful. I couldn't help shouting, "Honey." My wife slowly walked out. When she saw me, she handed the child back to the woman beside her. "You guys go to the car and wait for me." The baby cried as my wife stepped away, and the woman coaxed him gently. "Don't cry, don't cry. Mommy will be back soon." I was stunned. "Mommy?" I stared at Lee Min. What did she say? "Mommy?" Lee Min's voice was deep and cold. "Liang Shua, we need to talk." She walked aside, and I hurried after her. Up close, I noticed a faint milky scent on her body, and her posture clearly resembled that of a mother. "Lee Min, what's going on with that child? Don't tell me you went abroad for 3 years and had a baby." Her face was expressionless. "You saw it. I won't hide it from you. I gave birth to the child, but I'll give you an explanation. Go back first. After I finish my work, I'll contact you. That's it for now." Without waiting for my reply, she turned and left. I stood there in a daze for a long time before reacting. I chased after her, only to see her being embraced by President CH before they got into a Mercedes-Benz together. President CH. My heart sank. 3 years ago, CH also went abroad on a business trip. When he left, I even sent him many valuable gifts, asking him to take care of Lee Min. Turns out he took care of her in bed. I clenched my fists. I drove straight back to the company. Since she brought the child back, Lee Min would definitely go home, but which home didn't matter anymore. It certainly wasn't mine. With red eyes, I rushed back to the office and overheard several people chatting in the pantry. "Lee Min will be promoted as soon as she's back." That was fast. For a beautiful woman, promotion comes easy. It's all about the mother benefiting from the son. She gave birth to a son, and President CH can't give her the status of a legitimate wife, so he has to compensate her somehow. Liang Shua is so open-minded, living off his wife without guilt, treating her like a surrogate. Their words made me feel like I'd fallen into an ice cave. So they all knew. They knew Lee Min went abroad and followed CH. They all kept it from me. I was the fool kept completely in the dark. I even joked with them about missing my wife. I once told Lee Min I wanted to visit her abroad, but she said it was inconvenient. The travel alone would take over a week round trip, too much time and money wasted. She earnestly said, "Liang Shua, I'm doing this for our family. Can't you just endure it?" Endure. I endured not seeing her for 3 years. And this was the result. Lost in thought, I coughed lightly. The people inside turned around and immediately became awkward. "Liang Shua, you're here for coffee too?" "Yeah," I replied sarcastically. "And to listen to your gossip." One of them boldly spoke up. "Liang Shua, actually this isn't a big deal. Others don't even get the chance. You haven't earned less from your salary in 3 years, and your wife made big money abroad. When she comes back, she might even be a director. How does it feel? Got any experience to share? There was malice in his eyes. I knew he had long been dissatisfied, slacking off in my group while being good at flattery. Group 2 had asked for him, and I'd planned to transfer him at the end of the month. Now I decided he couldn't stay even one more day, but before he left, he needed a lesson. I smiled. You're a grown man, yet you gossip like an old woman. You really have talent as a busybody. I actually know a shortcut. Want to hear it? I beckoned him closer. He leaned in, and I suppressed my rage as I whispered, "You could just pull down your pants and sell yourself." What did you say? I spread my hands. Weren't you asking me to share my experience? Why can't you handle the truth? Liang Shua, I'm giving you face here. You're perfectly happy living off a woman. The child isn't yours, but the wife is. After Director CH goes to headquarters, just let your wife have another one. You won't lose out. The surrounding crowd burst into laughter. I couldn't hold back anymore. I lunged at him, punched him, and pinned him to the ground. This scrawny guy was no match for me. He screamed and begged. At first, everyone just watched and laughed, but when they realized I wasn't stopping and was really beating him senseless, they rushed over and pulled us apart. I shook my fist. I don't know who's living off whom. Weakly, he shouted, "Liang Shua, I'm calling the police." Go ahead. Just then, CH arrived. What's all this commotion? What's with calling the police? Director CH, Liang Shua hit me. Look at what he did. CH stared at me. Liang Shua, what's going on? This is a company, not a marketplace. Assaulting a colleague, your performance bonus for this month is gone. Chun Ming sneered. Liang Shua, I won't make trouble. Just compensate me 50,000 yuan, and we'll let it go. Fine, I said coldly. Let's call the police then. You have a filthy mouth, and I recorded everything you said earlier. If I expose this, none of us will get off easy. Chun Ming was about to explode, but CH stopped him. All right. Everyone disperse. Adults need to take responsibility for their actions. Chun Ming, come with me. Chun Ming followed him, fuming. I looked around and said coldly, if anyone else talks behind my back, this is what you'll get. Liang Shua, aren't you afraid of being fired? So arrogant. I shrugged. What's there to be afraid of? Worst case, I find another job. Do you think you can guarantee another job in this economy? They fell silent. My abilities were solid. Honestly, if it weren't for Li Minin insisting I join this company, I would never have come here. Over 4 or 5 years, my performance had been obvious to everyone. Li Minin knew exactly how she rose to branch manager, it wasn't just her own ability. But after so long, she truly believed it was all her doing. No rush. I wanted to see what they really thought. Half an hour later, Chun Ming came out with the HR manager, who watched him pack up his things and leave. I was surprised. Everyone take note, HR announced. From now on, anyone who engages in unwarranted insults and provocation in the company will be dismissed immediately. Chun Ming is an example. As the words fell, everyone looked at me. My heart sank. This was deliberate. As Chun Ming passed me, he snorted. Liang Shua, you're a disgrace, selling your wife for your own gain. I despise you. I didn't respond. I just watched him leave, then turned my gaze toward CH's office. This man was clearly setting me up. I was about to storm in when the HR manager stopped me. Wait. President CH is in a video conference. You can't go in. I stared at him. Just now, I punched Chun Ming and walked away unscathed. If I beat you up too, do you think CH would discipline me or fire me? The HR manager froze. Just as I was about to push past him, CH came out, displeased to see me there. What is it? President CH, I said coldly. Have you forgotten so quickly? Didn't you say you'd give me an explanation? Or do you want to discuss it here? He thought for a moment. Let's talk outside. Follow me. As I followed him to the underground parking garage, I noticed the deep furrow in his brow. Inside his car, CH handed me an envelope. I felt the envelope. It was about 10,000 yen. What is this for? I asked. Liang Shua, take the money and you can continue working here without any trouble, he said calmly. Just let this go. Continue working here. I laughed bitterly. You slept with my wife, and you want me to just keep working here? I grabbed his collar. Tell me, when did this all start? Chow's face darkened. There's no need to go into details. Besides this, there's also a bank card. A total of 3 million. 1 million a year. You're not losing out. He looked straight at me. You have 3 days, Liang Shua. This is the only offer I'll give you. Every day you delay, it's reduced by 1 million. I was about to explode with rage, but he pressed me down firmly. Think carefully before you speak to me. I'm the one in charge of the company now. If you don't agree, that's fine too. Once this gets out, it won't be hard for me to crush you. He was threatening me. I scoffed and slapped him hard across the face. I dragged him out of the car and started hitting him. Chow was 7 or 8 years older than me and half a head taller, but he was all bark and no bite. He was no match for me. Soon, I had him pinned against the hood of the car. He roared in anger. Liang Shua, you dare hit me? I'll kill you. I slammed my knee into him, and his face instantly turned pale with pain. I grabbed his throat and shouted, Chow, you bastard. You dared to touch my wife. The next second, I was thrown aside by a powerful force. The security guards had arrived and restrained me. Ch Hao regained his footing, furious. Call the police. Call the police. Don't call the police. It was Li Minin. She walked over from the emergency exit. Only then did I realize she had been there all along. Let him go. Let me talk to him. Chow waved his hand and got into his car. The security guards released me but stayed nearby, alert. My eyes were bloodshot as I stared at her. You told me you were forced. Just say the word, and I'll make things right for you. Li Minin looked impatient. Don't be stupid, Liang. Let's just have a clean break. A surge of nameless anger rose in my chest. Li Minin, we've only been married for 4 years. You cheated on me for 3. How could you do this to me? She was unnervingly calm. Should I call you stupid or naive? When did the company's overseas business ever fall to a newcomer? The company had always had a policy, only men were selected for overseas assignments. I had been surprised when Li Minin was chosen. Back then, she said it was because she was outstanding enough that the company was willing to make an exception for her. Now she was using that to mock my naivety. She glanced at her phone. On the screen was a photo of a family of 3. How ironic. Liang Shua, you can't give me what I want, she said flatly. Let's get a divorce. I want to move on and be free from now on. I stared at her, pain tightening in my chest. Throughout our marriage, I worried about her constantly. Almost every month, I sent her things, afraid she wouldn't have enough money abroad. As soon as I got paid, I wired her money. I cherished her, worried about her, missed her deeply. Her presence lingered in every corner of our home. And now she wanted a divorce, completely dismissing everything we'd shared. After a long moment, I spoke. Are you really sure? You want a divorce? Yes. Actually, we already registered our marriage abroad. We're just here to complete the formalities. Don't make a scene, it's not like you're losing anything. Her words were filled with open mockery and disgust. That was when it hit me. I was nothing more than a stepping stone. Since she had no regard left, there was no reason for me to cling to old feelings. I nodded, a faint smile on my lips. Fine. Just don't regret it. I won't. Good. Then I hope you two are locked together forever, never to part. I grabbed my bank card and went straight back upstairs. Back at the office, I immediately submitted my resignation. The HR manager was stunned, clearly not expecting such a sudden decision. The office buzzed with whispers, but I ignored them. My team members looked worried. One of them, Lee, pulled me aside. Boss, are you really quitting? Don't listen to their gossip. What are we going to do without you? Lee had been with me the longest. He joined straight out of university and had grown independent and capable. Seeing his concern, I patted his shoulder. All good things come to an end. Once I get back on my feet, I'll bring you guys along. His eyes lit up. Really? I knew you wouldn't just give up. They were saying such awful things, but I believe in you. Stay in touch. I patted his shoulder again. These young people trusted me. They'd been with me for years and knew what I was capable of. Only someone like How would foolishly believe that Lee Min alone had the skills to bring him profits. I sneered inwardly. I had used every connection my family had to help Lee Min gain a foothold in this company. Her qualifications were lacking, and her abilities were weak. Without me, she wouldn't have even passed probation. But things were different now. Since we were divorcing, there was no reason for me to continue using my connections for her benefit. I completed the handover procedures and left immediately. Let out a cold snort when he saw me. I raised my middle finger. Enjoy picking up the scraps. Their faces turned green instantly. Lee Min said coldly, make sure you clear out all your things. I don't need that stuff in my house. No need, I replied. Just throw it all away. Good, she sneered. It's all garbage anyway. Ignoring her expression, I stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, I couldn't stop the tears from welling up. I was furious. I would get my revenge for this humiliation. After completing the formalities, I posted an announcement on social media telling all my friends that I was divorced. Invitations for drinks flooded in, and I accepted them all. They were shocked to learn that Lee Min had a child with someone else. Liang Shua, is this real life? It's like a soap opera. Are you really just going to take this lying down? Aren't you going to sue her? Damn it, we'll help you get even. Just tell us where those two scumbags live. I quickly stopped them. It's not worth it. Trash should stay trash, don't let it stink you up. If you really want to help me find some clients. I'm planning to start my own company and fight him to the end. I also told them something I'd never mentioned before, my family was well off. I just didn't want to manage my dad's factory, so I came out to work. Now look where that got me. When they heard I was finally going to do my own thing, they were thrilled. You should have done this a long time ago. Don't worry, leave it to us. They patted their chests confidently, and I finally felt relieved. I went home, asked my dad for startup funds, and immediately registered the company. After hearing that I'd gone solo, Lee Min couldn't help calling me. She used a different number, so I didn't recognize it. The moment I answered, she said impatiently, Liang Shua, why bother? It's impossible between us. Why are you still hung up on me? Trying to get my attention now is pointless. I sneered. You really think too highly of yourself. This market is huge. Your company can have a share, and so can I. If Chow can't even deal with a small fry like me, then you really misjudged him. Just wait. You'll have plenty of time to regret this. She was still defiant, but I didn't care anymore. I hung up and went on the offensive. My school might not be famous, but my major is one of the best in the industry. Most of the big names in this field are my seniors and alumni. As soon as I showed up, many of them helped me. In the first month after the company was established, I focused on networking, meeting people, catching up, dinners today, drinks tomorrow. In the second month, I began taking on small orders. The company started making money. We hired a few more people, though we hadn't reached scale yet. And right at that time, I ran into Lee Minin and Ch. Howe. I had just closed a major deal and gone out to eat. When I saw Lee Minin, I was about to leave, but Ch. Howe called out loudly. "Yo, isn't this Liang Shua? I heard you started a company recently. That's great." He spoke dismissively. "The environment isn't good right now. Starting a business is risky. You should save some money, don't go bankrupt and lose all your family's assets." I glanced at him calmly. "You don't need to worry about that. But speaking of which, it's been 3 months, and I still haven't received your wedding invitation. Hurry up. Don't let people say you're living in sin. It's already bad enough that you stole your subordinate's wife, but now you're not even giving her a title." I looked at Lee Minin again. "Tell me, what exactly are you after?" Lee Minin snapped angrily, "What does it have to do with you? You should look at yourself first. Your senior brothers have all called me saying you've been begging them lately. Without a big company backing you, you can't use those connections." I didn't care. These were things I had deliberately asked my senior brothers to leak out, just to mislead them. It was better to keep her from bothering me. I smiled and said nothing. Chow looked at me with disdain in his eyes. Over these 3 months, besides talking business, I had also been looking for people to investigate them. Chow was considered a successful man, so why would he choose someone like Lee Minin to have a child with? She wasn't even the prettiest woman in the company, and she had been married before. What was the point? I didn't realize something was wrong until after the divorce, so I secretly investigated, and sure enough, I found some clues. I didn't tell her. Seeing Lee Minin like this today, I truly looked forward to the day the truth would come out. I waved my hand. "All right, you two carry on. I'll be heading out." Ch. Howe said sarcastically, "Liang Shua, drop by any time. The company's short on security guards, give yourself a way out." I turned and left, hearing a few snickers behind me, but I didn't pay them any mind. If Ch. Howe didn't marry her within 3 months, and even if he did, I planned to start snatching his deals in another 3 months. At first, Chow didn't realize what was happening. But when my former team members began resigning one after another to join me, he panicked. Half a year later, I had my first direct confrontation with Ch. Howe while competing for the SC Company project. At the airport, Ch. Howe and his team arrived ahead of us, taking the advantageous position and blocking my team. "Liang Shua, you're late. One wrong step leads to another. I suggest you head back and rest." Shai was furious and about to step forward, but I stopped him. "Are you rushing to your death? Let them wait. We're leaving." I took Shai to buy coffee at the airport and sat down for breakfast. Only after we finished eating did I leisurely pack up a portion to take with us in the car. Shai was frantic. "Bro, aren't we picking up the client? President Sheen is in charge of this project. If we miss him, the deal's off." "It won't be," I said calmly. "Trust me. He'll be here soon." Shai looked doubtful but obediently waited with me. Before long, we saw a middle-aged man wearing a Trini brand shirt and large shorts, clearly dressed for vacation. He dragged a large suitcase and walked straight toward me. I immediately opened the car door. "Uncle, you're finally here." I handed him the packed breakfast and gestured for Shai to take the suitcase. Shai was stunned. "Your uncle?" "Yes. My uncle. He's the one who recommended I study this major. He's a big name in the industry, and also the head of the SE project. Shai was dumbfounded and gave me a thumbs up. Once in the car, my uncle looked at me and sighed with admiration. You brat. You still ended up taking this path after all. Don't make fun of me, uncle. Wasn't I set up? But it's not a total loss. At least this time I'm working with you, not laboring for someone else. Hearing this, my uncle laughed heartily and patted my shoulder. It's good that you can think that way. I'll stay at your place, I'm tired of hotels. No problem. I snapped my fingers and had Shai drive us to my new place. I had already sold my old house and was now living in a small villa my dad gave me. One room had been converted into a studio. I brought Shai and the others into the villa, closed the door, and we negotiated right there. Meanwhile, Hao and his team were going crazy. They had been waiting since they got the news, but by the time my uncle and I finalized the contract, they hadn't even seen him. I heard Hao was jumping up and down at the airport. When I heard that, I burst out laughing. Arriving early was useless, who told him he was my uncle? After signing the contract, my uncle said solemnly, we can't let our family's kids be bullied for nothing. SC will host a business banquet, and I'll announce our cooperation there. Kid, it's time for your revenge. Thank you, uncle. Not only that, I also snatched several of Chow's clients, signing contracts with them as quickly as possible. I invited a few friends and my uncle to a small dinner gathering. This circle was small, and everyone knew everyone's background. There were basically no secrets. They understood that cooperation was one thing, but choosing sides was another. I enjoyed the meal, but when I went to the restroom, I ran into Lee Minin. Her face was red and swollen, tears in her eyes. The moment she saw me, her expression turned ugly. I ignored her and walked past, but she called out, Liang Shua. I turned my head and looked at her. My indifferent attitude unsettled her, and she grew nervous. Are you feeling very proud of yourself now? You finally got your revenge. You must be laughing at me, right? I suddenly found it amusing. Yeah. Are you talking about cheating on your husband and having a child with your boss, or about being beaten while entertaining clients? I spoke loudly enough that everyone nearby could hear. People passing by, including the waiters, all slowed down, clearly ready for gossip. Lee Minin's face turned green. She never expected me to dare say this in public. She was furious. You. I patted her shoulder. Just be a good person. Then I turned and left. Her face went pale with anger, while I smiled. I've always been someone who holds grudges. I'm not good at many things, but I'm very good at annoying people. Lee Minin was furious but helpless. What happened to her afterward had nothing to do with me. When I saw her again at the banquet, she looked much more haggard and had learned to behave. Holding a glass of champagne, she moved through the crowd with Hao. When she saw me, she linked her arm through his and walked over. Liang Shua, you dare come alone today? I was curious what they would do after knowing the truth. I smiled. You're here, why wouldn't I dare? SC is announcing their partner company today. What's wrong, President CH? You didn't pick anyone up at the airport that day? Chow straightened his clothes, his expression ugly. He turned to Lee Minin. Go find out. She returned shortly after and nodded. SC is about to announce their partner. It's already finalized. We were a step too late. He immediately looked displeased. Which company is so lucky? What's wrong with you? You haven't succeeded in a single project since taking over, and you've lost so many clients. He scolded her right in front of me. Lee Minin's face flushed. I smiled. She knew very well how those clients had come to her. Without me, she now understood how difficult it was. I spoke up calmly. Schwab Technology. That's SE's partner. Chow suddenly burst out laughing. Don't tell me, it's your company. He laughed loudly, drawing attention from everyone nearby. This kid is bragging, saying SC will cooperate with his newly established company. Are you daydreaming? But as he laughed, he noticed the people around him were silent. His face immediately darkened. Impossible, how could this be? I shrugged. My company may be small, but it's backed by my father's large group. Which company wouldn't want to cooperate with our family? If Ch. Hao and Li Minin had used their brains, they would have known I was someone they couldn't afford to offend. But they had already lost their best opportunity. Ch. Hao muttered, your family's group. Someone beside him explained, of course. Liang Shua is Liang Jingbei's only son. Surely you knew that. Chow's face turned extremely ugly. Even Li Minin looked stunned. She was about to speak when my uncle appeared and formally announced our partnership in front of everyone. We exchanged contracts under the spotlight. Applause erupted. With absolute superiority, I had won this round. Chow's face turned ashen. I glanced around and nodded slightly at Li Minin. She swayed unsteadily, clearly unable to believe that I was actually a child of the Liang family. Back then, in order to be with her, I had deliberately concealed my family background. Li Minin said she wanted to rely on herself. Seeing how independent and determined she was, I thought that if I relied on my family, who knew how she might mock me? So I never said much. I even bought a small house so we could start a life together. I had planned to tell her when the time was right. However, Li Minin was too ambitious and even wanted to go abroad. All I could do was keep sending her things and money whenever I had time, 3 years of passion and effort, all repaid with her betrayal. My heart turned ice cold. But I didn't really think much about revenge. After all, we were already walking different paths. I felt strangely calm. In business, harmony brings wealth, and she simply wasn't worth getting angry over. After that incident, I officially signed a contract with my uncle's SC company. Even though he was my uncle, I still made things clear, if he wasn't satisfied, he could send it back at any time. I composed myself and quietly worked alongside him. 2 months later, Chow finally couldn't hold on anymore. I had Shi and the others keep a close watch. As soon as there were clients, we poached them all. Those clients had originally been mine anyway, now they were simply returning. Ch. Hao couldn't take it anymore. When Li Minin came to look for me, I wasn't surprised at all. With their abilities, it was already impressive that they had lasted this long. She clenched her fists and stared at me. Liang Shua, was it fun toying with me? I was taken aback. Toying with you? Where did that come from? You're so rich, yet you lied to me. You deceived me. She raised her fists and started pounding on my chest. I immediately grabbed her hands. Li Minin, do you really think I did that on purpose? Listen carefully, regretting now is useless. We're over. Hearing that, her face turned pale. Liang Shua, please. Leave. I told her to get away from me mainly because I didn't want to get tangled up in any trouble. The bomb they had planted was about to explode, and I was waiting to see Li Minin's downfall. However, considering our past, I still couldn't help but advise her one last time. Chow is not a good person. You should break ties with him as soon as possible. At that point, I didn't want to interfere any further. Li Minin was thrown out by my people, but she still kept trying to pester me. However, before she could even start crying her sob story, she was exposed as a mistress who brought her child to force a marriage. When I saw the news, I couldn't help but smile. It had only been 2 days since Li Minin last came to me. It seemed someone had already taken action. Li Minin was beaten by the original wife and her entourage, stripped naked, and thrown onto the street while countless people watched. Only then did she realize that Ch. Hao was not some eligible bachelor, he was a married man. His wife was in poor health and unable to have children. They had colluded with Ch Hao, wanting Lee Min to help them have a son. But Lee Min believed that Ch Hao truly loved her, that they were a couple, that it was real love. She was willing to divorce me just to bear him a son. She returned to China dreaming of becoming Mrs. Ch. Yet even after having a son, Chow grew increasingly distant and never once mentioned marriage. After my reminder that day, Lee Min seemed to realize something was wrong and began arguing with Ch Hao. Upon returning, he impatiently told her to get lost. Lee Min then threatened to report him for rape. That alarmed his legal wife. A woman who had weathered many storms, she dealt with Lee Min exactly as one would deal with a mistress. She beat her mercilessly and even preemptively used the internet to stir things up. Without a word, she stripped Lee Min naked in public, making her the target of widespread ridicule. Throughout all of this, Ch Hao hid in the background, silent, neither clarifying nor protecting Lee Min. I found it laughable. This was the man Lee Min had chosen. She sacrificed her marriage for so-called love, only to be branded a mistress in the end. Unable to bear it, she called me, saying she regretted everything. I immediately blocked her. Was I some kind of pushover, expected to take her back just like that? Meanwhile, Lee Min and Ch Hao's affairs abroad were also exposed. The media wasn't interested in the truth, the juicier the gossip, the better. Some even followed the clues and found me. Bro, you cut your losses in time. You saw through it long ago, didn't you? Buddy, Lee Min got beaten. Feeling relieved? Online voices shouted endlessly. Of course I had seen the original video. Not only had I seen it, I had given it a push. Now, neither of them would have it easy. Public opinion is a double-edged sword. I, the ex-husband, became the biggest winner. Everyone praised me as a devoted lover who stayed faithful for 3 years while his wife was away, only to be discarded when she returned. My company also gained massive attention because of this. I seized the opportunity and snatched several of Ch Hao's last profitable projects. He was completely cornered. The day Ch Hao declared bankruptcy, Lee Min came to me again. She couldn't bear being schemed against like this. After all, she was still the child's biological mother and was still breastfeeding. The child wasn't even 2 years old. Even if Chow went to court, he couldn't win. The two argued violently in the company. Lee Min screamed angrily, "You have a son now, do you have a throne to inherit? You can't even come up with 10 million. Ch Hao sneered. You think you're worth 10 million? Any woman can give birth. You were just convenient because you were abroad. Otherwise, why would I choose you?" Lee Min went berserk, scratching at him with both hands. Chow's face was covered in bloody marks. He retaliated and shoved her away. Unexpectedly, Lee Min crashed through a glass door. A sharp shard pierced her abdomen. It was a disaster. She was seriously injured and rushed to the hospital, where she insisted on not settling the matter. Chow was desperate. His legal wife even went to the hospital and beat him. Only then did I realize, Ch Hao himself had also been a kept man. In the end, Ch Hao gave Lee Min 3 million. The child went with Lee Min as well. He eventually divorced his legal wife and stayed with Lee Min, but their life was far from good. His company had completely collapsed, and his ex-wife placed a ban on him throughout the industry. If Ch Hao and Lee Min had obediently stayed home with their child and the millions they received, they could have lived comfortably. But he refused to accept his fate and insisted on starting a business. For a man nearing 40, starting from scratch was far from easy. This industry required capital, connections, and timing, none of which he had. Lee Min's abilities were average at best. After endless struggles, they lost the remaining millions. Then tragedy struck again. The child was diagnosed with autism. They were completely devastated. After much deliberation, Ch Hao shifted all the blame onto Lee Min, cursing her as a jinx. Lee Min refused to back down, and the two fought fiercely, becoming a pair of resentful spouses who brawled openly in the streets. I shook my head. This was the life Lee Min had pursued. It was her own choice, wasn't it? A year later, I saw Lee Min again. She was selling alcohol in a nightclub. I was stunned. After not seeing her for a year, she was dressed revealingly, weaving through such a place. She smiled ingratiatingly, calling the club owner, brother, just to sell a few bottles of beer. I was dumbfounded. Lee Min noticed me too. She froze for a moment, then walked over. Big boss, do me a favor and buy some drinks. I took out a few red bills and handed them to her. What are you doing here? Where's Ch How? We divorced. He took the child. I nodded. So he even took the child. But I still have to pay him 3,000 yuan a month in child support. She took a deep breath and forced a smile. Liang Shua, I'll bring more drinks. You're paying for everything tonight, okay? I couldn't help but laugh. I'm not a fool. I won't pay. You pay, she insisted. Her face darkened instantly. I shook my head and left. I had made one mistake once. I didn't want to make it a second time. After that, I never saw her again. I later heard she latched onto another rich old man, only to be chased and beaten in the streets by his children. Later still, I heard that her poor son, diagnosed with autism, was sent to the countryside and drowned a few days later. But none of that had anything to do with me. My company was thriving, and I was far too busy with social engagements and negotiations to spare her a single thought. The path one chooses is the path one must walk to the very end.